Hello and welcome to another episode of Run Till You're Done. This week's guest, I was fortunate enough to meet on a Pylon social run last year, and I've been following his journey for quite some time before that. He joins us this evening to chat about his running past, as well as some exciting projects he has coming up in the near future. Welcome to the show, Gavin Bussey.
Thank you very much, Nikki, and you got my name right as well. Thanks very much. It's nice to have the opportunity to come and chat to you guys for a while.
Thank you. So the question that we start off with every single guest is, how did you first get into running?
So it was a while ago now. It was probably about 2010, I think, when I first pulled on a pair of trainers on a pretty dark January night. And I started just as a kind of weight loss thing. I was quite a different person back then. I was weighing in at about, I think it was like 107 kilos, which is like 17 stone in old money. So pretty chunky, and just not very healthy at all, like sitting on the couch. I was a smoker and quite a stressful job. And I was kind of inspired by a few folk in work who just recently got into running, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to give that a try. So bought myself a pair of trainers, and because it was January, it was tights and a long sleeve top, and started running just like round the block here. I'm in Paisley, so I just started out running round the block, and then it would be twice round the block and then 3 times round the block. And that was kind of it. It wasn't really, I don't know, I don't think I'd really call myself a runner back then. I don't know, everybody says, you know, there's that saying, like, if you run, then you're a runner, but I think I was probably a jogger. But yeah, so that was it. And that was me for a couple of years, really. I had a year off in 2012 with some health issues, which we can probably chat about later if you want. And I didn't really get into the whole ultra thing until like 2013. After kind of what happened in 2012. I should probably just go into it just now, I suppose, really. So the culmination of the unhealthy lifestyle that I was living at that point ended up in me having a heart attack. So I was pretty young at the time, and I remember being really surprised by the experience, and just surprised by the fact that I was 37 years old and had a heart attack. And I was in hospital with a bunch of guys who were like in their 60s and 70s, and we both kind of had this conversation of like, what are you doing here? You know? So it was a real big sort of turning point moment for me, really. I came out of hospital after 6 days, pretty much stopped smoking on the spot. And like I say, although I'd done a bit of running kind of before in the past, I came back to it really after that with like a really renewed sense of enthusiasm just to get fit and healthy, and just kind of kept on the running. And the hospital were great. They really supported me within the first 6 months after I'd left. They had this brilliant cardiac rehab program. They would take me to the gym and put me on treadmills and all that kind of stuff and make sure I was very well looked after. So it was like nothing, you know, they didn't want me basically to have another heart attack again under their watch. And like I said, that lasted for 6 months. And then after then, I was kind of cut loose to go and do my own thing and started running, like kind of properly running. And I think that's maybe when I would say I kind of became a runner then. It became like a regular thing. I was doing like 5 or 6 days a week. I got myself my first coach, Mr. Donny Campbell. At that point, I'm sure you guys know of him, and started to kind of work towards like doing some races, really. And I think it was about that time I read Born to Run, like everybody else did. I know like a few folk have been on the podcast, and like everybody, well, not everybody, so a few folk have talked about their experience with Born to Run, and I think mine was kind of broadly the same in that I was amazed by this like wonderful world of ultra running that is it Christopher McDougall's his name, isn't it?
Yeah.
That he talked about. And I was just like, oh my God, you know, I need to run an ultra marathon and I need to barefoot run. So so set about both those tasks. The barefoot running didn't last as long. My Achilles complained constantly for like 6 months. But gratefully the running kept up, and it just kind of went from there, really.
So looking back, you had a heart attack, but looking back now, could you see any telltale signs that you think, oh, that was obvious that I shouldn't be doing that? Things that people might want to look out for and change like you did?
It's a good question, Mike. And I wish I could give you something, but honestly, like, I can't. It was such a surprise to me. I was driving the car at the time. I mean, I knew, like I say, that I wasn't super healthy. Like being a smoker on like 20 roll-ups a day, not being particularly active, probably drinking too many glasses of wine, and a really demanding job. I was probably kind of in a wee bit of like autopilot mode, do you know, where you just get in that state of where you're just like, you kind of just get through it, you know, you just got on with it, in that kind of old saying, don't you? So any kind of cues that I was, maybe my body was shouting at me, trying to tell me to slow down or stop it or whatever, were just completely unnoticed until it just went, right, okay, you're definitely going to stop now. And that was it, you know.
And I think it's something like that takes, you know, a big shock for you to turn your life around. I mean, you can't even really call that a midlife crisis, really. You know, a lot of people joke, but, you know, when you get into ultras and things like, oh, it's a midlife crisis. Whereas with yourself, it was a total absolute kick up the backside, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, it was. It was a pretty clear kind of fork in the road moment for me.
Mm-hmm.
You can go this way and you can carry on and you can sort of get over what's happened and just kind of go back and slip into that old way of life. Or you can kind of use this as some kind of opportunity to make some changes and try and address some of the things that were giving me problems, you know.
And did you go cold turkey and just say, right, that's it, I'm stopping all the bad stuff? Or was it a gradual thing? Did you work up to it? You obviously just didn't go, right, I'm going to run a 100-miler tomorrow. But
I quit the cigarettes pretty quickly, although it wasn't easy. I had like the patches and all that kind of stuff. It's amazing how like they just get in your brain, cigarettes, do you know? They really do. And no, I didn't jump straight into 100-miler, do you know? My reading of Born to Run and obviously all the Googling that I'd done after that, then I pretty quickly found the West Highland Way race, and that just became like this event. Just became like this real kind of point in the horizon that I really started to work towards. You know, I kind of got this idea in my head that if I could just get to the stage where I would be fit and healthy enough to be able to do something like that, then all going well, I probably wouldn't have another heart attack. Touch wood. It's gone okay so far.
And you said you got a coach and you started doing races. What was your first race?
So I think I did a couple of like smaller races that year in 2013. And towards the end of the year, I did the Glencoe Marathon. I don't know if you remember that race. I think it's only just started up again, maybe for this year. I kind of had a few years away. I ran that in 2013 and absolutely loved it, you know. And then I think I was pretty lucky to get a spot in Glen for the same year. So that was my first like ultramarathon experience. Yeah, which was quite an experience. It was like November, it was like early November, and I remember it just being like the most freezing cold, horrible sleet and snowy day. Yeah, I was just like a total greenhorn, you know. I knew absolutely nothing about ultra running. And when I read through the instructions, they said I could have this thing called a drop bag. was like, what's this drop bag, do you know? So I remember grabbing a sports bag, like this size of sports bag, and just kind of putting everything that I thought like maybe I would need in this bag, and turning up at the checkpoint, and everybody else had these like little like plastic bags with their number on it with a couple of gels in it. And I came in and gave them my number, and they're like, "Oh, you're the guy. Here's your massive bag." Fine for me, do you know what I mean? I sat down and like changed my socks and t-shirt and had like a bunch to eat out of it. So yeah.
And was there much left from that bag on the scavenger table?
There was a few things left. I think through all of it, you know. But yeah, it was it was quite an experience, you know. Like I remember being super chuffed, obviously, to finish it and sore, like super sore. But you know, I felt like I was really progressing, and it was good. It was good to feel like the hard work that I'd been putting in just to kind of get fit and get myself a bit healthier had started to work.
Have you done any road marathons, or has it always been trail events you've done?
I've never done a road marathon. The closest I got is the 50k, the Sri Chinmoy 50k at I think it's Northridge Park, isn't it, up in Perth?
Yeah.
And I think was it 2019 or 2018 I did that race, a few years ago now, but that's the closest I've ever come. Although I would like to, do you know? I'd love to try one of these big city marathons out, I think. The buzz in them, the vibe just looks fantastic.
A bit different than most of the races you do when there's like 10 people at the finish.
Yeah.
There's several thousand instead.
Yeah, I've done like the Glasgow 10k and half marathon times, and it always amazes me that like people are just compelled to come out of their house and cheer on just folk out for a run, you know. It's just like the nicest thing. I love it. So yeah, in the future.
And you've done quite a lot of events since 2013. Have you got any standout ones that are your favourite, if you can pick even a couple?
Yeah, I mean, I've been like really lucky, you know, to do some great races over my years. Like the West Highland Way race, I will go back to it again, you know. It's like a home event. If you're an ultra runner from Scotland, it's like you just kind of feel like you have to do it, I think, do you know. I've done that twice now, and I do love that race dearly. I really do. And I've raced out in the Alps a few times now. I've been super, super lucky to do that with a few different events. I did the CCC twice. Like it was like the whole UTMB thing was like a really different setup back then. There was no stones or like this weird kind of pyramid scheme that it seems to be now. It was basically just like you just fire your name in the hat, and if your name comes out, you get a place. So I was lucky to run CCC a couple of times. The first time it did almost kill me though. It was in 2016, I think I ran it for the first time. And I was just like, it's going to be amazing. I'm just going to have this brilliant day out in the mountains and it's going to be really nice. And I turned up and it's like over 6,000 metres and it's 30 degrees and I just nearly died. It was just horrible. I remember getting to the top of the first climb and just being, I thought that's like, I'm done now. I could like, honestly, I could go home and I could go to sleep now and I've done like 8 kilometres and 1,200 metres. It was a horrible race, but you know, when you're kind of in the mountains and you're doing the whole UTMB thing, it's pretty special.
The thing that I remember UTMB going through the Alps and hearing a cowbell. It's like, it's pitch black. You're up in the top of the mountains and there's somebody came out and they're ringing a cowbell. How great is it? And then you turn around and it's an actual cow.
Yeah.
Who knew that cows wear cowbells?
Yeah, and then your head torch catches their eyes.
Yeah.
All the experiences at night up there.
So for races like that, or for any race, West Highland Way, when you've got a crew, how do you fuel?
So fueling, it's a good question. It probably depends, really. Depends on like the distance and depends on kind of what I'm trying to get, you know. Like for a 50k, say, or a marathon, or even like a 50 miler, I would probably just use gels and like maybe like wee chew bars and that kind of thing, and just like super easy going things. I've landed on the precision gels, which I think are great. They really work for me, and they don't give me any trouble at all. So
do you time your gels like how many per hour, or do you have another? How often do you take them?
I wish I could be that organised about it, Mike. Do you know? I was thinking about this the other day, actually. When I started running, like the whole ethos of nutrition was that like you wanted to be so well fat adapted that you could essentially run all day and you could maybe have like half a gel.
Yeah.
You know? So like I'm this old guy who's like trying to run and run and run for as long as he can on as little as possible, and now things have completely like flipped on its head, where it's like no, you have to get in as much as you can without spewing or shitting your pants, so you can run as fast as you can for as long as you can. So I'm still in the transition period between the two, I think. I am trying to get better at just like taking more on and just being more, I think, aware of like when I start to feel a bit of a dip in energy, and just kind of try and get ahead of it a little bit. But no.
I've run the marathon distance on a handful of pork scratchings.
Yeah.
So I'm in the same boat as you. Every time I go out for a run, what did I have last time? I can't remember. I've got to make it up again. It's a learning game,
Yeah,
but you just forget.
Though now, you know, it's like, oh my god, how many carbs can you get in an hour? And I'm like, I don't know, some.
How many can you afford?
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
And I take it you've streamlined that drop bag now. It's not the big massive bag anymore.
Yeah. I have learned a little bit from it now. Yeah. So they are a bit like, they kind of think I could probably fit them into like one of those little plastic freezer bags now.
Have you got anything feeling wise that when you do feel sick that does what for myself? I've learned it's actually bananas seem to square me up quite quickly. So have you got anything that works for you that's your go-to?
See, to be honest with you, I can pretty much like get away with eating anything now.
Mm-hmm.
Years of just like I said, not eating much and then trying to kind of change that and just try this, or you should eat gels, or you should eat real food, or like I've seen loads and loads of like trends kind of come and go in the whole nutrition space. And I've tried a few of them as well, so like I say, I can pretty much shovel most things in and they stay down, apart from NAC gels, which just like it's just a no-go for me. But other than that, so like I don't really get sick, to be honest with you. I'm quite lucky now. Either that or I just run too slow and I'm just chuntering.
I definitely don't think it's slowness. I feel sick just through nerves. So we were talking just before we came on about how you've crewed various different events. Would you like to elaborate on that for the listeners? You've crewed quite a lot of times as well as running.
Yeah, I have crewed quite a few times. I really enjoy it. I do really enjoy it. I was out with Derek. I'm sure everybody saw, most of the folk who follow me on Instagram, or Derek saw me out in Colorado with him last year when he ran Hard Rock. We had 2 weeks out there in the San Juans. We spent like a week in one of the towns, just kind of building up to the race, and then we had a week beforehand in Silverton to work up to it, and it was just a fantastic experience. The race itself is like incredible. It really is. Lovely community of people, beautiful course, super tough though, really tough, and the altitude out there is an absolute ass kicker. It's the strangest experience, you know. Like everything, you kind of look around and everything pretty much seems normal, but it feels like you're breathing through a straw. The oddest experience. But yeah, I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And the San Juans, like I say, they're beautiful, really beautiful mountains. Great for running and just this beautiful natural environment. So much history there. They've got all these ghost towns from all the old mines that were there from the sort of turn of the 19th into the 20th century. It's a really, really beautiful place. You know, if you get the opportunity, you should definitely go and experience it, whether you go to the race or not. You know.
And did you support run with Derek at Hard Rock?
I did, yeah. I did like 30 miles with him. Greg, I don't know if you know Greg Stevenson. He had come out as well. So the two of us were going to kind of split duties. And there's some of the transport at Hard Rock is kind of challenging, just given where it is within the mountains and that environment. And some of the roads between checkpoints are really, like, they're kind of extreme four-wheel drive only. So we kind of had to work around a lot of the transport stuff. You could get into some of the places, but others we couldn't. So Greg he ran about 15 miles, I think, with Derek from halfway. And then I ran a big section of like 30 miles. And then Greg kind of picked up the last 10 miles or something towards the end again afterwards.
With Derek being about 10 foot tall, do you think he had a disadvantage with the altitude?
He would certainly have made me believe that, Mike. Yeah, definitely.
Is there any other crewing experiences that come to mind that sort of stick out as highlights?
Yeah, wow, crikey. I crewed Paul for his end-to-end run a few years back, which was a really fantastic thing.
Sorry, Gavin, what is the end-to-end run?
So the end-to-end trail goes between Land's End and John O'Groats.
Right.
And it's not, I think it is an official trail, but it's made up of like smaller trails that are kind of stitched together. And Paul had this idea in his head, like kicking about for years.
Paul Giblin.
Paul Giblin, yeah, sorry, I should say. To run this end-to-end trail. So he just kind of hit upon the idea, and we talked about it, and I was really up for it. So we drove down to Land's End, and I drove back, and then all the way up to John O'Groats. Sorry.
You drove back on the road, but Paul took a different route.
He took the long way, Mike. Absolutely, he took the long way. I think it's like 1,200 miles or something on trail. It really is a long, long journey. I think he was 20. You'll probably correct me on this. Was he 27 days, maybe? I think, or something like that, to do it.
Not sure.
But it was fantastic, Like, we had an amazing time in the van, although Paul will probably have a different view of it sometimes. Like me try to feed him pot noodles when all he wants to do is lie on the ground in the fetal position. Just be that guy who's just kind of trying to keep everything together and keep things moving, like.
So who had the harder job, him or you?
Absolutely me, Mike. Absolutely. Like when you run, I always kind of come into it with the ethos of being like, as much as you can offload from your runner, you should offload from them and give them just enough space and capacity to really just focus on what they want to do. So I tried to do that as best as I could. And Paul just had to deal with the running, which was pretty arduous at times. But yeah, loved it. Absolutely loved it. Saw some amazing parts of England and Wales and Scotland, and just met some incredible people, I really got to know the power of the story. I could meet complete strangers and strike up a conversation with them, and then they would obviously ask, like, what are you doing down here? When my accent gives it away. And as soon as you tell them what you're doing, you know, people are like, they were just absolutely fascinated by it, that we would do this thing, you know. And it was lovely. It was just a really nice way to meet and engage with people. We really enjoyed it. Really did.
And were you the only crew member, or was there a few of you to help out?
So there was me so it was about 4 weeks in total. So I did a couple of weeks, and then handed over to a couple of guys, Bob, Allison, and Kevin, who took over for a week while I had to go back to work and arrange another week off afterwards. So they did a week, and then I kind of picked up at the end again and took it to the finish.
So getting back to your achievements, and crewing might be the answer to the question, what is your biggest running achievement?
So this is a difficult question, Mike. Like, I thought about this quite a lot. It's probably, I think it would be easy for me to say like a race or something, or like something that I've finished off, but this might sound kind of cheesy, but I have to be honest in it and say the thing that I'm most proud of is how I've improved, I think, over the years. Do you know? There's a few races I've done a couple of times, and when I came back and did them the second time, I managed to PB them really well. And then I've kind of springboarded into doing some things which really, really stretched me, like I didn't think I could be stretched, you know. And it's just a really, running has been a great sort of vehicle for me just to grow personally for me. And like I say, I think that's probably my biggest achievement, you know, without going into too many specifics.
That's a great answer, which leads on to my next question. You may have answered this, excuse me, you might have answered this already within that answer, but why do you run?
So yeah, again, it's like, this is one of those questions that could be, well, I could talk about it for 10 seconds or 10 minutes probably. There's lots of reasons. There's lots of reasons I run, you know. And it's changed over the years, you know, like when I started as a runner, it was like, obviously, like we talked about, it was like a really big fitness thing for me. And just, I had this real strong desire to just kind of try and get healthy and be basically somebody who wouldn't have another heart attack. And, you know, over the years, I've kind of achieved that. And then running became, it was kind of a period where it was quite a difficult relationship we probably had. You know, as we'll maybe talk about later, like, running is like, I think a lot of people look in on running and they'll be like, oh my God, it's so good. You're running and you're being really active and exercise. And it is a really positive thing to do in your life, you know, but there's also all these other things that come along with running that make it really, really difficult. Certainly I found it really hard. The comparison was always really tough for me. And just really being how stark it was, how well you had done, whether you'd done well or not. I kind of got caught up in a lot of that for a long time. And a lot of I think my kind of personal value was really tied to how well I felt like I was running. And I'm kind of gratefully now at the point where I've kind of grown out of that as well. Oh, excuse me, my dog's just arrived. And now, like, running is much more of kind of just like an experiential thing for me now. Like, I know it sounds a bit trite to say it, but like I run just for the experience of running. You know, it's you know, it's a wonderful thing to do. Like, sometimes just the feeling of moving, you know, and just moving in like nature and being in the mountains is enough. And just the growth, I think, that comes from it too. You know, like it's been a fantastic, like I say, vehicle for me just to really grow personally. And that's probably why I do it now. I think I can kind of say, yeah, that's why I run. I just run to run because it's good for me.
The next question might have been answered in that answer. It might not. Something that I get asked all the time is, what do you think about when you are running?
Not much, really. Not much. I'm quite lucky in that, like, my brain is usually, when I go out for a run, my brain kind of goes quite quiet, which is nice, and I kind of really just tune into what's happening in my body. Sometimes I hear people talk about, like, when they go out for a run and they like, come up with these amazing ideas, like things come to them or whatever, but that happens for me in the shower, unfortunately. And running is like I say, I'm pretty much like in the moment, thinking, right, okay, how am I running? I'm not stepping forward or just checking in with my form and just kind of being present, really. So I'm not like a million miles away. I'm pretty much where I am.
And when you're being present, something that we chatted about with the last guest was running without headphones. Do you ever run with music or podcasts, or do you go without?
Most of the time, I pretty much go without. I have done it, like I have done it before, do you know, and I do occasionally like an audiobook these days. It's a really nice way, I think, like when you're out on your long runs, you know, it's quite nice to just plug in an audiobook for an hour or two, and you can really chew through a book pretty quick then. But yeah, not too much. Like, I have had some bad experiences though. I remember my first West Highland Way race, and I was really into like history at the time. And I downloaded this podcast all about the Second World War. I thought this is going to be great. It's like 3 hours long. I'm going to bang this on, and time's just going to disappear. And like before you know it, I'll be there. So I put the podcast on, and I thought, right, okay. I think it was like maybe like Time Drum or something. I thought, right, I'm going to put this podcast on. It's going to motivate me to carry on. And within half an hour, like this guy in the podcast is talking about the carnage that's happened after the H bomb has been dropped on Hiroshima. I'm like, oh my god, like this is like the last thing I want in my ears at this point. So I feel terrible, I feel like really shitty, and all you're doing is telling me about like all this really bad stuff that's happening. So yeah, I kind of got out of it after that.
No wonder.
So would you be tempted to go back and listen to an audiobook of Born to Run?
I probably would, you know. Like, I keep thinking about, I should read that book again. But I don't know if it's like just one of those things where you just look back on something with a bit of nostalgia really fondly. And if I was to read it again, I'd be like, I wouldn't feel the same, you know.
Well, he's got a sequel, Born to Run 2. Surprise, surprise. But it's a totally different book. It's a training manual rather than a book.
I loved that book when it came out. It really did.
I'll be honest, I don't think I've got it in my Kindle, but I don't think I've actually read it.
Oh, really?
Call yourself a runner.
Yeah, it's a great book. It's like, I don't know if it was just that point in time, you know, it was like around like 10 or so years ago, maybe. But it came out and it just created this whole like zeitgeist in the world of running. Like, all everybody talked about was barefoot running, the Copper Canyons, and all that whole thing.
Yeah, I've met Barefoot Ted McDonald, and he sells solar wheels. They're basically unicycles without the seat. So, and they're battery powered. They're weird things. I had a shot and fell off of it in about 3 seconds.
2 feet, stick to 2 feet, mate.
Yeah.
So Gavin, you've got some quite exciting projects coming up. Do you want to talk about some of those?
I do, Nikki, yeah, so thanks for asking. So as you know, I'm a counsellor and I have a business. And I recently, just kind of recently this week, decided to kind of take my counselling practice and combine it with my running experiences. And I'm launching a service specifically for athletes, endurance athletes specifically. So it's like sports counselling. So, like I alluded to a little bit before, there are obviously some aspects of running that maybe people can find kind of challenging. So, whether they be, like I say, the comparison that we talked about, or body image stuff, or anxiety, and a lot of stuff that sometimes doesn't really get talked about kind of so much in running circles. So I really wanted to try and use my skills and experience to kind of try and help a lot of people that I really feel I can relate to, and just give them a place to go where they can either come and discuss some of the challenges they have, or they can work on mental resilience strategies, and just kind of try and really, I don't know, it sounds weird to say use to leverage your brain and your running, but it's kind of really kind of tapping into to what you've got between your ears to really help your running and really kind of elevate people's running experience, So I've got that on the go, and like I say, that's pretty much just launched this week. So
would that be getting into sort of mental strategies, race strategies as well, that sort of thing?
So it'll be race strategies and like coping strategies. So not coping strategies, but more like developing resilience. So if you're in a race environment, how do you develop the mental tools and techniques that enable you to get through that race in the best possible shape and the best possible way for you? And for some folk that may be, I want to make sure I'm locked in my head and my body so that I can absolutely give my best performance. Or for some people, they might be like, I just want to feel like I'm having a really good experience and I want to be really connected to what I'm doing. So it's just really kind of helping folk to tap into that side of themselves and then really help them relate it to their running.
And where can people access this service?
Yeah, so it's all on my website. So my kind of main counselling website, which is Second Mountain with a 2.co.uk. You can go in there and there's a little link. So I've just called the service Summit Mind. And you can go in there and read a little bit about it. And if it's something you're interested in, you can get in touch with me through the website or phone, or I have like social media stuff and all that. So I'm pretty easy to get hold of if it's something that people are interested in. So like I say, that's available now. And I have a few other things kind of launching within the next 1 to 2 months as well. So I'm going to be doing some, like we talked about Paul, and I've known Paul Giblin for years now. And I'm, really lucky we're good friends, and we're going to do some collaboration work now. So we're finally kind of both got time to really work on a product that we can bring to the community together. So it's going to be a kind of holistic coaching thing, I think, is the plan, to really kind of cover everything that an athlete maybe might want to do. So that's going to be coming up within the next, like I say, month or two. What else have I got going on? There's like that, and I've also got a men's group starting up as well. So it's going to be a space really for male runners to get together and just talk about things they maybe want to do, or open themselves up in ways maybe they don't feel like they can do it in other environments, and be supported by their peers and their community. We're just going to try and build a space where people can feel like they've got a bit of community that they can lean on if they need to, or they can give support to other people when they need it.
And with the counselling business, Gavin, I read on your website, is it counselling for going out into nature? Is that where you take people, you don't have an office based, you're out and in the fresh air?
Yeah, that's right. So I do the online stuff, but my main thing is outdoors. I don't do the in the room thing. I like to kind of get people outside, and just really, it helps them really connect with the environment, connect with themselves a little bit. And it's quite a similar process. There's obviously like talking therapy is talking therapy, whether it takes place in a room or outdoors. But being outside can just it brings a different experience to people, and sometimes it can just help them open up when you're not kind of in a room with that kind of face-to-face environment, which can be a little bit. It can be quite full on, I think, for some people,
I think having had counselling myself in the past, I've been sat in the room and it's nice enough, nice smells, comfy chairs and what have you. But that is what really intrigued me when you opened your business, because I thought, a lot of people say, running's like therapy when they go out with their friends and they just have an hour's gab and they feel so much better. So this will be a brilliant service. I've never actually heard of that, and I don't know if it's popular or if this is something new that you've built on, but it sounds absolutely brilliant, and I really hope it properly takes off for you.
Well, thanks very much, Nikki. I am really hopeful that it will too. Everybody I speak to about it seems to think it's a great idea, and I completely agree with you. It's just a great place to take people to talk, just to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's loads of even sort of research to back it up as well. How much just being in nature, wherever it is, has a really positive therapeutic effect on a person, mind and body.
And do you think have you got any sort of routes that you would take somebody out in nature that you have used your running to influence where you take them?
Yes, yeah. I have done the research to find some good places, and we have used plenty of routes around and about. But I travel, so that's kind of one of my things is I have some fixed locations that I work from outside, but I also work with clients as well to find places that are kind of convenient to them too. So I have a 15-mile radius of Paisley that I work in, so that kind of covers North Glasgow and down into Ayrshire and those areas. And if somebody's interested, then we just kind of have a conversation about, say, well, is there somewhere that you would like to go that you might feel comfortable or you're familiar with, and we go there. And if not, then it's just up to me, and I get Google Maps out and find somewhere interesting.
And those, do you say 3 projects? Are they all going to be on your website or on Paul's website?
Well, I would imagine the work with Pylon will probably make some kind of appearance on mine, but I think it's going to be offered on the Pylon website as well, and through Paul too. So you should be able to access it kind of from either point, My Second Mountain or through Pylon.
We'll put both websites in the show notes.
Grand.
Next question is, have you got anybody that you could think of that you would want to run with, whether fictional, non-fictional, alive or not?
This is there's loads of people I would love to run with. Genuinely.
Well, name them all. It's fine. We've got plenty of time.
I mean, I love Killian. He's he's the GOAT, and to have to go for a run with him and just be and just chat and shoot the breeze with Killian would be amazing. But there's also really interesting guys. I don't know if you've heard of Bernd Heinrich. He's this German guy, and he lives in the woods on his own. And he wrote this book called Why We Run. And he just lives this really lovely, humble, natural existence and talks about the evolutionary and historical aspects of running, and why are some of us, like all of us, or three of us obviously, but why are some of us so driven and pulled towards this weird running thing, which is kind of hard, and it would be almost be easier to choose not to do it. So why do we feel so compelled to do it? So yeah, I could have a really interesting conversation with him as well, I'm sure. But I also love, like, have you heard of Bruno Brunoid?
No.
He's like this old Italian guy now, but if you go back like 20 years or so, 20, 30 years, he was the guy, you know, as far as skyrunning was concerned. And before Killian came along, Bruno held loads of the speed records on loads of these big mountains. Like, he was the guy who held the record on the Matterhorn and Mount Kilimanjaro and all these like massive mountains. Like his record in like the Matterhorn, say for example, from Cervino to the summit and then back down to Cervino, he was like 3 hours and 11 minutes or something, which is just mind-blowing. And the record stood for nearly 20 years until Killian came along and took it off when he did his whole, I don't even know, that Summits of My Life project that he did a few years back. If you haven't seen the video of him doing the Matterhorn attempt, you should absolutely watch it. It's just an incredible thing that he does. But yeah, Bruno was just like, you know, these guys, they would just go and run in the mountains in like tiny trainers and the tinier shorts. And they were just like pushing the edge of the sport, like back then. And it was fantastic to see. There's loads of old stuff on YouTube actually you could go and check out if you feel so compelled. Like skyrunning in the 90s. And like I said, these like Italian and French and Spanish guys in like really mad, colourful outfits of the time are just doing crazy things. Yeah, will blow your mind.
I think that's a YouTube hole you've opened for more for me, because I quite like watching videos like that, but that sounds even cooler.
Yeah, I will ping you some over, Nikki.
Do you think if you went for a run with Killian, you would spend the whole time going, wait for me, wait.
Absolutely. I have a friend who ended up in a run with Killian, and I think he got dropped in like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Just he's gone. You know, when it comes to like a 20% incline and Killian still runs.
At 5 minute miles.
Yeah, exactly. And he can still chat away.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't think he would get much chat out of me. I'm sure he would confess it was nothing.
For the rest of your year, Gavin, do you have any adventures or events planned, running wise?
So I just have one in for the calendar this year. I'm off to August to race in the Swiss Alps 100, along with Derek again, and there's a few other guys from Scotland going out. So I'm looking forward to it. After my tour experience last year, I decided to step back a little bit from the week-long ultra marathons, and hopefully this one will just take me a couple of days.
Just.
But it looks great, you know. It looks like a really lovely route, lovely course. There's a little part that goes alongside this like UNESCO World Heritage Site for this glacier. Beautiful, you know. So that's in August, and then just before that, in June, I'm off out to Western States with Ian Garnett. I'm going to be crew again, so with Derek. I think like I'm making it sound like a bit of a couple, but it's not my plan, I promise. Yeah, so we're heading out there in July. We'll do a couple of days in San Francisco, and then we'll head up towards head into the mountains and spend some time there. So looking forward to that as well. Very much so. Very much.
That sounds amazing. Do you plan your holidays around your running and your crewing?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I think it was 2015, I think. I had my first like run holiday, and that was out to Chamonix. Like, like I say, I'd run in Scotland like 2013 and 14, and then I went out to the Alps in 2015, and it was just like, it's just incredible. I don't know if you know, like the first time you see it there, it's just,
yeah,
it's pretty epic scale. When you come from Scotland and a mountain's like 1,000 meters, and you think that's pretty high, which it is, and then you're surrounded by the real mountains. It's really...
And you look up, and then you look further up, and then you look further up, and you still can't see the top.
But yeah, no, running just became a great way just to travel, and see loads of different places. And a lot of the time, it's the two kind of go hand in hand.
If there's any tips that you have for convincing a non-running partner for this, please let me know.
Trans Gran Canaria. Perfect, it's in February. Get out there, get some sunshine, and yeah, it's great for families too.
Well, I only recently discovered there was one in Tenerife recently as well, and I says to my other half, "Oh, do you fancy going to Tenerife in April next year?" And he went, "What race is it?"
Yeah, but I'll just be away for one day, just one day.
No, even. Well, try not to be.
Yeah, absolutely. You should.
I've got two notes written down to this. You said we'll discuss later, but I think you might have already talked about them. One is the health issues in 2012. Yes. I think that was you said you had a heart attack. So we've definitely talked about that. And the other one was talking about your relationship with running. And I'm not sure whether that was referring to you having falling out of love, in love with running, or whether we're talking about counselling.
The former. It's my own sort of personal relationship with the sport, and like I said, it's evolved over the years. Well, I think evolved, and probably will continue to do so. It's funny, like when I think about it now and think back to when I was younger, I absolutely detested it, I don't know if you guys have like similar stories, but my earliest running memory is of being like probably about 13 years old as a slightly chubby asthmatic child, getting shouted at by my PE teacher trying to run around the track 3 times. I've been the last person to do it because I was so slow. Just thought, God, it was horrible. I hated it, And I don't know, here I am now saying, extolling the virtues of it. I think it's just one of those things, isn't it? There's so many things I think in life that are like two sides of the same coin, and I think running is very much one of them, because it's like sometimes it is easier just to sit on the couch, isn't it? Or it's just easier to be like, you know what, I don't feel like I run today.
Mm-hmm.
But you kind of also have this other part of you that's like, Gavin, you should get out there. You'll feel better. Get out there. It's good. Just go and put your trainers on and go just get it done. And ultimately you usually do, Yeah. Our relationship has changed. I guess like any relationship, Maybe it's like a marriage, I don't know. I've never been married, but I imagine it's an evolution.
Right, Gavin, we're going to wrap it up there.
Sure.
I'm sure that we've just touched the surface on many subjects, but we're just over an hour, I think. It's been great having you on. Great for chatting. I'll just say thank you for coming on. Thanks, Nikki, for being Nikki, and it's goodbye from me.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.